Actually, it's been a very positive year this year for the London market, for companies looking to raise capital in IPOs. We've had 89 this year, raising about £13.6 billion. And market conditions have been pretty good. Secondary markets are strong, volatility is quite low. Investors have funds coming into their funds from underlying retail investors, so there's capital to be put to work. So it's actually quite a good time for companies to be looking to raise capital.
What's the future of London as the #1 finance capital post-Brexit, particularly if there's no deal?
I think Brexit potentially impacts London in a number of ways, many of which I'm not sure we can answer today with a 100% clear crystal ball. I think what we can say is that for companies looking to raise capital, what they really want is a market where there's liquidity, where they're going to be close to investors that are going to buy, where they're going to get access to the profile they want, where they're going to access that long-term patient capital. And that really is the London story. It's been there for 300 years. It was there before Britain entered the EU in 1970, and certainly we think it's going to be there afterwards. So we're actually pretty philosophical at the LSE about international companies looking to London to raise capital going forward.
What's your view on the ICO market, and does that in any way threaten the IPOs?
I think it's a very interesting and emerging area at the moment. I think it's one where technology is moving very quickly, where regulators around the world are moving to try and catch up with technology, I think, in some regards. It's got a way to go, I think, and in fact the amounts raised through ICOs have been relatively modest compared to the amount raised in equity markets over time. I would like to think that actually the complementarity of the ICO market, and indeed companies looking to then raise long-term patient capital to grow their business in the equity markets, are not mutually exclusive, and in fact one can easily then be a pathway through to the other. So it's an area we're monitoring. It's moving very quickly, but one that I think long-term could actually support that pathway through to our markets as well.
And what do you think of Gibraltar as a finance centre, and why would investors be drawn here?
I think investors would look at Gibraltar as a great economic success. It's an economy here with a budget surplus. It's one which has enjoyed 9% GDP growth this year, albeit obviously from a relatively small base. But I think there are a number of positives here which investors would look at. Investors at the moment are starved of growth opportunities. They're looking for yield. They're looking to put their capital to work. I think there are some very exciting companies here in Gibraltar, particularly in around the creative side, the technology side, digital media. I think there's potential for some very exciting businesses to look to raise international capital, and London can potentially be a partner for the Gibraltar markets to give them a sort of window into companies here.
How connected is the Gibraltar Stock Exchange to the London Stock Exchange? For example, can a Gibraltar company list in London and vice versa, a London company or a UK company list on the Gibraltar Stock Exchange?
Yes, absolutely. We already have 4 Gibraltar incorporated companies on the London Stock Exchange. Small number, I know, but one we're very much looking to grow. And that obviously goes both ways as well.